What's up, everyone? Welcome. We are live right now on Cannabis, and if you're joining us on YouTube or on Spotify in the podcastosphere, thank you so much for joining us. We have a great episode for you today. We have Dirk from Lost Coast Plant Therapy, plus the special guest of the show is the dude from the Dude Grows Show. We're going to be talking all about Lost Coast Plant Therapy. We've had Dirk on the show in the past, just about a year ago, so it's really great to check in with him. We're going to be talking about really important subjects, things that people are dealing with, or we've been seeing reports of dealing with this kind of outdoor season. I've seen tons of people complaining about bud rot. We've talked about powdery mildew, I guess, came up recently with some folks. So we're going to be talking all about that and more. So if you want to get some great tips and hear some great discussions, stay tuned. But before we get too far into it, I need to make a couple shout outs. First off, shout out to Tanazi and SacredThreeMushrooms. The dude's wearing his shirt right there, actually. Tanazi has SacredThreeMushrooms, and they're a supporter of the show. If you want to
unplanned.
Yeah. If you want to grow your own fungi at home, make sure to check out SacredThreeMushrooms.com. They have grow kits that are about the size of a shoebox, and you can grow your own edible mushrooms at home and all sorts of things. So check out their website. It's really cool. It's made a really simple process, and you can use the code Cannabis on their website, and that'll give you 10% off. Of course, we're also going to shout out lostcoastplanttherapy.com. They've been a supporter of the show now for a year plus, and we both, JR and I, have been using their product quite a bit. I've been using it, as you've seen in my outdoor grow series on our YouTube channel. I've been using Lost Coast Plant Therapy pretty regularly through veg and now in the outdoor season, and we really appreciate their support. So, of course, we'll just shout out them. And then last couple shout outs, I'm going to go over to JR.
All right, so we have some Tiki announcements. He just did a whole big breeding project with a bunch of femline, and so he has a big seed drop that he did this week. It's live now at TikiSeeds.com, and of course, through this month, it's 50% off, and you get a free spooky pack with every purchase. I also want to remind people to go ahead and hit up shop.cannabis.app. We have some gear there. If you want to get some cool hats or some cool shirts or anything like that, let us know if you enjoy it. And we'll try to start getting some new designs out here shortly.
And then as we go right into the interview here in a second, I'll also shout out everyone in the Cannabis community. Your support is really helpful. The folks that come in as monthly supporters of our channel, you can go to Cannabis in the App Store or go to cannabis.app in your browser. You can join for as little as $4.20 a month. Your support helps keep the channel going. It also helps us fund things like JR's recent trips to various grows. Basically, we dip into the checking account to pay for things like hotels and stuff like that, so JR can go out and visit these grows and put up those videos on our YouTube channel. So check out those if you haven't seen them already, and then join the community. We'd really appreciate your support. But let's get into it. Thank you so much for joining us, Dirk from Lost Coast Plant Therapy. If you guys aren't familiar with Lost Coast Plant Therapy, it's a really fantastic IPM spray that leaves you with that minty fresh smell in the grow. And you know after you've used it that it's done its work. But it's been really effective in our grows, and we're super excited to have Dirk on the show to talk about it today. Thanks for hanging out with us this afternoon.
Enjoy it as always. Thanks for having me back, you guys.
Well,
good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, man. To get started, I mentioned it kind of in the intro there. We've seen a lot of discussion about, we're recording at the mid-October, so it's outdoor season for a lot of folks. People have been harvesting. I've been on the grow subreddits recently on Reddit, and there's just picture after picture. Is this bud rot? Is this bud rot? Is this bud rot? So many people are dealing with bud rot these days. So I thought it'd be interesting for us to kick off the show and just talk about your kind of best practices or tips for folks on how they can use Lost Coast Plant Therapy to prevent bud rot and also to treat it, or if they see bud rot, how could they use Lost Coast Plant Therapy?
Good. Thanks, you guys. There's a myriad of ways of putting our product on during the veg cycle, the flowering cycle, fluorescence, and then toward the end, the last week. So everybody puts it on differently in different countries and different states. It's like I've said before, 500 growers will put it on 200 different ways. It's crazy. And what happens is that if you don't take care of an insect problem that you're having, or a light pathogenic problem like powdery mildew, botrytis, those always lead to bud rot. Once you get bud rot, there is nothing on the planet that will get rid of bud rot. It's the cells are just destroyed, and nothing will bring it back. No poisons, no organics, nothing will bring it back, to my knowledge, once it gets to that state. And since 1970, I've been growing. I don't grow anymore because the company's taken all my time. But since 1970, I've seen so many different types of bud rot. Some not caused by other pathogens, some caused by insects. So we would always tell people, if you're not having any problems, just put it on when you finally get a problem. And then it morphed into, okay, maybe we should start doing this a little earlier. Some people will cut a clone, like I've said, dip it in our product, put it in the substrate that they're growing in, soaking in our product. I mean, unless there's problems out there, you don't really have to do that, but it's not a bad idea, especially if you're getting clones from somebody else. But even cutting yourself, just a lot of people do that. And then they'll just put it on once every 10 days, twice a month, whatever. Some people put it on once a week because they like sleeping at night. It's a bit excessive. And if there's nothing out there, problems, right, from either side, pathogens or insects, a lot of people just won't put it on, understandably so. Now there's a third notch that people are just putting it on prophylactically, whether they have a problem or not. And then they don't develop anything, especially late in veg, beginning harvest, when something can develop, the compactness of the buds, bud rot and different pathogens can just form. And like I said, I don't know of anything that cleans bud rot. And if any of you guys do, let people know, because as far as I know, nothing brings back complete cell destruction. And that's pretty much what bud rot does. And it could be a beautiful, gorgeous, 4 or 5 ounce bud that you'll be trimming. And all of a sudden you'll get into it. And it's like, the fuck is that? It's at one of the nodes.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
like a cancer.
Exactly. Brett, that's exactly how I say it. That is, I don't like saying it a lot because there's so much of that shit out there now anyways with people, but that's exactly pretty much what it is. And if you can pluck the bud off, fairly easy, that's bud rot. If it doesn't pluck, it's not bud rot. Bud rot, before you can really even see it with your eyes, it just pulls out, that's bud rot. And you're going, well, it looks fine to me. And it pretty much is. It's just in the beginning stages before it turns necrotic, black and just falls off. So the new paradigm in growing, and this is in all the 5 continents we're selling to, and all 44 states, is that people are just putting it on now 2 or 3 weeks after they get into veg. Some people will do it in the beginning. Like I said, you could put on a lot of our stuff and it gets expensive. It just depends on what your atmospherics are, what strain you're growing, what is it like this year? Powdery mildew is really heavy this year all over the world. I mean, it always has been, but this year more than anything, some years it's root aphids and foliar aphids, and other times it's russet mites, and they're always here, but there seems to be a flow of it. If somebody has it in one state, 2 or 3 states for it, it just seems to be that it's just exploding everywhere. And I attribute it to the warming of the planet, 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit, that made all these existing blooms of pathogens and insects just explode, because they've always been outside of people's grow rooms, greenhouses. I mean, I could go outside anywhere, and I have for years, and found things that are just there. It just exploded now. And people in the middle, like I've said before, middle of Alaska, middle of South America, all have powdery mildew, and they've never gotten it before. Or they have spotted spider mites for the first time. And it's not that they're sharing their clones with anybody or getting new clones, or have people in infested places coming in. That's just what's happening. It's Mother Nature.
I would kind of like to add to that as far as like best practices goes, because you mentioned some things in there. And one of the important keys is your genetics. The genetics you're choosing for the region you're growing in has a huge impact on how those things are going to finish out, especially
You're
if
talking
they're
outside, JR, specifically?
yeah,
Or okay.
yes, outside, especially if they're indoor 9 to 10 week strains, and you know they're going to go to the middle end of October. It's very important that you choose your genetics that can withstand that, and if not, try to choose genetics that are going to finish early or light depth. The other thing I want to say is insect prevention. The huge part of this, and one thing I implemented this year, was insect net. I have this, it looks like I got a big grow tent outside, but it's actually an insect net. And that kept all the cabbage moths from landing on my flowers and laying all those eggs, because they go inside, they shit and wallow, and then it just rots from the inside
yes,
out.
I had that.
Right?
And shout out to Sunny, right? Are we shouting out to Sunny and Bactopia for that? Like, she is the biggest insect net pusher. And that's what I had. Dirk, you had mentioned, bud rot coming from insects. So people understand that you're literally, this is outside, little caterpillars and different things will go shit in your buds. That's what starts to cause the problem.
Exactly. I should have clarified that. Thank you guys. Both of you guys, very erudite on that. It's so true what you just said there. And I have people that will grow 20 different strains, and 4 strains will get powdery mildew. Right next to each other, 3 strains will get broad mites, and nothing else. It's that's so true what you said there, JR. It's strain specific on a lot of things. It really is. And I've seen that forever. Even in the 14 or 15, 16 strains that my wife and I did, there were some that were just prone to bugs, some prone to powdery mildew, but I liked them too much. So I did not want to get rid of them. We had one for almost 30 years, a Shiva skunk that was just phenomenal.
Footballs.
They actually brought it back.
Footballs.
Yes, I used to go 3 buds to a pound. They were each, 5 to 6
just giant,
gorgeous, compact ones. Yeah, they were even bigger. They were like 3 feet long, and you just would cut them down to this compact thing. I know, it's crazy. But
we used to get we would get paid to trim for weight, and we loved when they harvest that skunk Shiva, because our our shit would just fill up with weight so fast, and minimal trim is the best.
You go to a Pure Kush, and you get buds that are this big, and it takes you a day to even get a half a pound. And people are like, why do you have to grow this? Because it's so good.
Fire,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
So I want to talk, while we're jumping into some of the juicy stuff, let's go ahead and get into powdery mildew a little bit. I think the dude could kind of give us a little synopsis of what he's been up to and some of the stuff that he's kind of learned in his little powdery mildew journey.
I mean, full disclosure, I've had powdery mildew, I will say kind of intentionally, not intentionally, but for the last at least 6 months. I found it first early on in veg, sprayed and took care of things. It wasn't around for a minute. Took these plants, which is a seed pack that I was supposed to keep the genetics around. I took clones of each plant. There was only a 6-pack, so 6 clones. Let's try and make sure which pheno did good. Then the whole grow, as it went into flower, PM started popping up. And I had everything backed up in veg, but eventually, knowing that those cuts came from those plants, the veg started popping some PM. I was like, all right, well, let's simplify this. Screw the pheno hunt. I don't have enough, manpower. Because once you have a problem like this, you have to understand, if you're going to try to tackle it, depending on the amount of plants or lights, your labor is going to intensify tenfold. If you're really on it, it makes it so hard. So I reduced. I was like, I'm not searching for 6 phenos. I immediately, without the smoke test at the end, said these 2 look like the best I'd like to grow. Took 2 plants into the veg tent. And I was like, dude, these are only in 3 gals. I can treat the hell out of them for PM, right? I know I'm getting thorough coverage. I rotated through Lost Coast Plant Therapy, Optic Foliar ATAC, which is a little slight copper sulfate, BioSafe Zerotol. Now we're getting into like some commercial grade products. And now I have BioSafe Oxyphos. And I'm more and more like JR's philosophy, man. And I'm trying to learn. Cut it down. We'll see. I'm at where I have fresh clones again from these same plants, and powdery mildew has already presented itself in the clone tray. And so I'm going to last straw, eliminate the entire clone tray, but the 2 plants, 2 cuttings, I don't see getting it at all. and know that I can throw the gamut, like warfare at these two. Because right now they're only 3 inches tall. I can give them complete dunks. I can, I want to, it's one of those things as a grower, it gets tricky. I want to stay with just a few products, but I have an arsenal. When you throw the whole arsenal at a problem, and you got to be careful when you're rotating between spray products, everybody definitely understand. Like I called BioSafe to see if I could spray this after using Zero-Tol, or when you're introducing new spray products, only spray a few plants first. But now it's I'm losing faith. I don't think I'm losing faith to say it's beatable. Do I think it's manageable? If it presents itself mid to late flower and you want to work a lot harder, you could probably pull that crop to harvest and have some decent product to smoke. Part of me does feel spraying late in flower per my last test. I did think it affected my terps a little bit. Was the end flower, would I not smoke it? Would I not have it? No, I'd still keep it. It was totally worth having. So yeah, those are my takeaways so far. So sorry for the mouthful, but that's where I'm at with it since I've had it for like half a year or more now, trying to understand life cycle. It seems once those hyphae take root in the leaf, there's a lot of products that'll make it go away, like it's not there for a while. But once those hyphae are in the actual leaf, the mesophilic layer, if you will, it seems like it.
Yeah, it's a manageable thing. Powdery mildew, no matter where you are, is a manageable thing anymore, and it's only going to get worse. Every centigrade the earth gets warmer, it's going to be that much more of a difference. It's amazing.
Oh, and one more comment. Sorry, before I forget. Sorry to interrupt, but I was not doing any prophylactic IPM, as Dirk has said. Would I have been doing that once a week, and this little spore comes to my grow and then gets hit by something like Lost Coast or Optic or whatever I'm using? We're probably going to be okay. I was not doing anything. I haven't seen powdery mildew in 6 to 8 years. So I was like, whatever, my grow's good. So that's on me for not doing any IPM. I might have not gotten to this level.
And would you say, dude, that the original introduction of that PM was through a clone that you had received from someone?
I would like, if I'm a detective, like most things point that way, because I did bring in cuts for the first time from a buddy that buys his cuts for his grow. He's like, I got some of these sick clones, some fashionable strains, and I tried them all out. So I'm pointing my finger at that for sure. But again, totally on me, slacking ass. I didn't do a quarantine. I didn't do proper treatment of those clones. So more than likely that's where it came from. And if I would have treated those clones and kept an eye on them for a while, maybe, I'll just say maybe I would have been good. But again, I've seen this powdery mildew go away for 10 days to 12 days, like the plants look clean. And then, oh, there you are. No, you're not clean. And I'm spraying the hell out of it the whole time.
Yeah. I know, it's crazy. So, and the arsenal that you say to use, people will do that. Insects with our product, not so much, because they can see a difference after that every other day for 7 to 10 days to get rid of the eggs to the adult. With powdery mildew, our product changes the pH of the plant. These little things called hostoriums underneath the spores don't hook into the plant. So it'll just brush off, but it has to be done on not a prophylactic, on a management basis, whether you see it or not, because sometimes people won't see it for 2 to 3 weeks. And then when it comes back as a monster, it's absolutely horrific.
You know how many growers can't, like, I have an eye. I'm not trying to brag, but I mean, I scout hard. I have an eye. Like when I see some people, I could picture walking over the slightest spot of PM for 2 weeks plus in their grow, not even knowing they have it or looking in the back corner or, fully inspecting each plant for sure. So when I see like a pin size come up, I'm usually 90% on it. But yeah, I need that extra coverage. I need the IPM. That's where I'm slacking.
Yeah. I like that idea though. You said, dude, is to minimize what you have to treat. If you have a plant, strip it down to what you feel like are the least amount of leaves that thing needs. And then as we kind of move on with the discussion here, I kind of want to talk about some of the modes of action and some of the things that you can do to try to set yourself up for success. And before we move on to that, the last thing I kind of wanted to say about PM and doing these sprays and flower and stuff like that is if you're indoors and you've done your due diligence, you've gotten your clones responsibly, you've treated them by dunking them with Lost Coast, in in your practices before you even introduce them into your garden. Then when you're in veg, you're treating pretty regularly up to flower. And then when you get to that second week of flower, you start seeing any pistil growth. You should have done your homework and your due diligence to not have any issues to have to deal with spraying in flower. However, when you're outdoors, you're constantly at the mercy of what Mother Earth is going to bring to you. And the saying that nature takes its cut is very real. So for folks that are outdoors and they're depending on their medicine to get them through the year, applying those products to get that harvest is better than having no harvest at all.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And hey, you mentioned dunk real quick. Dirk, you said, I hit you up on this. You're comfortable with, if I have a healthy rooted clone and a plug, that I can completely submerge, like go ahead and do the full dunk.
Of course, yeah. People spray it on their roots. I've said this before to you guys, the clonators, you know, the 50 and 100 plug tub units where the roots hang in suspension and they're spritz. People will spray those roots with our product, our product to get rid of root aphids with no damage.
Reinoculate beneficials after that is what I'm thinking. Like take care of the problem, but then reinoculate if you're using beneficials.
Exactly. And that's the thing.
If
that's
you're trying to go ahead, Dirk. Sorry.
No, you go ahead, JR. Go.
I was going to say, especially if you're using like a mycorrhizal fungal product, that stuff has to establish in the roots very early. And so if you do kind of nuke your root zone, you need to get that stuff reestablished.
Yep. And you know, when people are using an IPM, especially for powdery mildew, and they'll use 2 or 3 things, I always tell them experiment and see with your own eyes. Do a quadrant as well as you can. If you have 80 acres, do 1 acre of our product. Do the other 79 acres with whatever your IPM system is. And even we just got into these lettuce producers, big. They're organic lettuce producers. They're going to do something like 90% of the cut lettuce in the United States. They just went off of their IPM and just use our product by itself because I told them to do experimentation. And that's the thing. When other products are used, and I'm not saying that they're not as good or worse, or you know, ours is better or worse. When you do that, sometimes you don't see what you will see if you're just using one product. That's why the experimentation is so important in this, you know, and when people are growing 3 or 4 plants, it's like, shit, I don't want to experiment, you know, on one plant and have to do this. But I tell people, if you do that with your own eyes, you can see. You don't need to use a huge amount of products, you know, 3 or 4 or 5. You can just use our product by itself. Or if you found somebody else's, you could use their product by itself and it worked. That's the thing. You want to use as least as you can, even the same modalities, even another product that is oil-based. And, you know, and who in the fuck wants to spray any buds at the very end? Well, we've gotten videos from some people that have had, I think this is about half a dozen now, that built tubs and will put our product in, about 100 gallons worth. They'll dip these 4 or 5 foot plants with buds into them 2 or 3 days before they harvest. And I mean, I've seen it with clones. I've seen people have made machines where they dump trays of our clones into our product, these cool mechanical machines, but never did I see that. And now we've seen probably, like you said, a half a dozen from teenagers to full adults dipping it into these vats with our product. It's crazy. And again,
mature flower?
Who wants to do anything on those? In mature flower.
Yeah.
They were harvested in 2 days. And I'm going, you guys, you don't really need to do something like that. I mean, I know that you saw
though. Those guys may have to pass tests that are at the parts per billion. You know,
all these people all these people, JR, everybody I'm talking about is legal. They have to pass PPBs. And that's the good thing about our product. And another thing about the trichomes, our product does very little damage to trichomes, very little. Extract companies here in Humboldt said that some people that have used our product as a standalone for 2 or 3 years, and this is probably 3 or 4 farms, and they don't use anything else in the IPM, had an increase in their terpenes and their cannabinoids. And what does that say? That's right there. That's Tricomes. And the guy that I get most of my dabs from, he strictly just uses our product, the one that has like 30 or 40 strains, and he won't go to anything else. Even though it's minor, it's not that big of a deal, but it is enough to where he noticed the difference. And this kid is, like I said, he's one of the best dabs makers I've ever seen anywhere. You know, live rosin, organic, and he grows it himself in many different properties, and he's legal, and he does it himself. And that's what he did. He experimented. He had probably 5 or 6 different organic products he was using over a 2-year period. And then he just went to ours just because it said was the easiest, and it did, you know, the job it was supposed to do. And there are sometimes there are pistils at the very end. Some strains will have pistils that will turn red or brown from spraying our product, but that'll do it if you spray cold water on them. The same thing. That nothing is in the pistils that are going to have any terpenes or cannabinoids to it. So, but again, who wants to spray anything in late harvest? That's why the alcohol, the dinosaur juice I put in, that's why it dries in the plant in 10, 15, 20 minutes maximum. And if somebody has to do that to save their harvest, because you know as well as I do, whether it's a commercial or if it's for themselves, that you'll do almost anything to save your crop.
Oh yeah.
Almost anything. Even spraying post-harvest. We've had about 40 or 50 growers spray post-harvest, and half of these guys were legal to get rid of powdery mildew. And they ended up saving 80% plus of their crops, thinking that they were going to lose most of it, because powdery mildew in a curing, drying crop in the right circumstances it's like a tsunami. It just takes over like instant. Like a wave. It's crazy. So that kind of blew our minds too. You know, there's probably been 300 growers now, I think, somewhere around there, that have used our product post-harvest, and at least a third of them have been legal. And they still I didn't sleep well the first 3 times because I wanted to make sure it was going to pass PPBs. And of course it did. And, you know, it wasn't any different than what they'd done before, you know, as far as taste. The terpenes are the high as far as the cannabinoids.
I want to double click real quick on the outdoor part, because we're in the tail end of it, but I've been doing my own kind of outdoor grow series on our YouTube channel. And obviously I've been just kind of living it because I've been growing my own big plants and experiencing various things. One of the things, my takeaways kind of this season is next season, I am going to try to do the mosquito net thing, because what a great idea. What I saw this year, that's with the heat waves that we had this year, is a huge spike in bugs. So like whenever we had those like 90 to 100 degree spikes, and that would last, you know, like we just got through one that was like a week long. Even at the tail end of flower, I'll see a huge spike in aphids and other things, caterpillars. So I just wanted to ask you, Dirk, real quick, your kind of pro tips, basically. On does Lost Coast plant therapy kill the moth eggs? Because if I wanted to kind of reduce down to one spray, the moths that are flying around basically for the last 2 months straight, I can't stop them from, you know, landing on my crop and doing what they do, right? As much as I want them to stop, unless I do the netting. Right. So does your spray kill the eggs? Do you just have any sort of pro tips on that end? Because those things are just such a pain in the ass.
Of course. So New York, Michigan, Illinois, Nebraska, Oklahoma, they've all experienced a moth infestation this year. It's like, what? It's fucking crazy. Our product decimates eggs, which is great. It decimates eggs. But JR, and I just wanted to say, what a great idea about putting on the mechanical way of helping cannabis, the netting. What a fucking great idea that is. I mean,
well, that makes
really
sense that makes sense for me and Q are growing in our backyard, but when you got 40 acres, it kind of stops making sense.
Yeah, but you know, JR, they net 40, 80, 100 acres of strawberries of certain and blue. I've seen them do that before, and it's reusable. You know, they've done that. So it is possible to do that, but that is an excellent mechanical way of getting something done. It's one of the best. I've never even thought about that before. It's interesting.
I kind of want to fast forward now to some of these modes of action that are built into Lost Coast, because I think the value in the product is the multiple modes of action that can attack, especially mites, thrips, and insects like that. we just talked about dehydration and dehydrating their bodies and the shell of their eggs to make them not viable to interrupt their life cycle. We talked a little bit about physical and mechanical removal, but the next one is kind of like growth regulation, or like IGR, insect growth regulation. Are there interrupters built into Lost Coast?
No. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. But no, our product isn't. I mean, what it does, and there are other oil-based products that do it out there. I just don't think near as well. That's the main reason I made my product. It suffocates, it dehydrates, thoracic breakdown, metabolic breakdown, exoskeleton breakdown. So basically, what I just said is like, what the fuck? It would take hundreds of years for an insect to develop immunity to that, especially the suffocation aspect. But when you can't eat anymore and you can't metabolize anything, and then your belly opens up and, everything falls out, that's pretty much what what the product does. And, I made this product only for powdery mildew when I moved from the interior to the coast. That's basically why I made it. I had no idea that it was going to do all the insects. It blew my mind.
What about the peppermint? Is that just for the nice ambiance in the grow room?
Yes.
Okay.
There's
aromatherapy.
I saw that. There's such a small amount of peppermint oil and essential organic peppermint oil, and it is a natural insecticide. And I know that, but even I've used products that are all just peppermint, right? Then that's all it is. That's what it's designed to do. And the efficacy rates are low, but we have a very, very, very small amount, mainly for the smell. That's it. That's mainly all it is. And like I said,
it smells nice.
It's like it's like 1 to 800 ratio when you mix a couple ounces into a gallon. That's how small of an amount I have in there.
Have you ever seen people use it? I've wondered about this. Have you ever seen people use the mint of Lost Coast to keep away mice or anything like that? Because I know you're supposed to like leave mint around to keep mice around. I was just kind of curious about that. You've ever seen that experimentation?
It dries. Yeah, it dries so quick.
That's true.
That I don't think it'd be good for something. I really just don't. I mean, it helps with ants and things like that, but rodents are they're a hardy group, and our product would be useless against anything like that without question.
Would you say that the kind of the soapiness of it that really is useful in kind of spreading, almost as like a spreader for the product?
That's why you don't need a wetting agent. Even though if people still want to use one, they've done it and they haven't seen any difference in their application outcomes. So that's the thing I tell everybody: experiment with one stem if you only have a couple of plants, one plant if you have like 4 or 5 plants. Don't do your whole crop with it ever or anything like that. But should I got off, JR? What was the question again? Damn it, JR.
Oh. Sorry, I'm stoned too. I don't remember.
I can elaborate on that.
I know.
You're making a good point with trying stuff on one plant, or I'm spraying stuff on one half of my clone tray where I am like doubling a recipe. And I'm not saying everybody should do this, not doubling a recipe, but a frequency. Only use this product, whatever product it may be, for PM once every 10 days, and I'm feeling like I need it more. It's so okay. I'm going to try it 2 times every 10 days instead. But then I first try it on, one half to see how everything reacts. I like you recommend. I didn't even think about that, Dirk. If you only have a couple plants, just part of a plant is okay.
That's all. You need one stem. It's very easy to do that. It's so easy. That's how we used to breed before. We would envelop one stem on a plant with different types of male pollen, and that stem would be enveloped and closed, and that's how we would make our seeds. So it's not, it's not hard to experiment on something like that at all.
I will say that consistency matters, because you're trying to break a reproductive cycle, right? And so if you're not doing it frequent enough to where the ladies and gentlemen, or however they get down, if you're not breaking up that process, then it's just going to make it much harder for you to get on top of the problem you're trying to get on top of. So that consistency really matters. Also, because of the alcohol that's in it, that does all this dehydration to the egg sacs and stuff, that part of it is really going to be key to breaking some of those cycles. I do want to talk a little bit about soil-borne problems that do reproductive cycles in the soil. That's my question.
So how basically like a soil drench or something
like that? Yeah. Can you do this?
Yeah, I didn't make it as a soil drench until somebody called me about the first year. I think I've told all of you guys this, and somebody used it on 40 acres, and they had hemp, THC, corn, and alfalfa, and they used it for root aphids. And I was like, root aphids? I really hadn't even heard that problem with cannabis, back then. And yeah, they use it as a soil drench. So if somebody has something like fungus gnats or whiteflies, that they'll pupate in there. You just have to spray your substrate for a few seconds after you spray your plant. And that little bit of extra wetness helps it, soak in a little bit more. Thrips, they'll pupate in the leaves, but they'll drop down to the soil a lot. That's why when you do see thrips, you'll see your soil come alive. Just squirt the top of that, and that's fine. And, I wanted to get back to that 7 to the 10-day thing about the insects, JR, is so important, because sometimes you spray our product and you only see like a 65% efficacy rate. Second time, 85. I've told you guys this before. Third time you get that 95. And then so you'll do it on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, and then Tuesday. And then you could go back. Some people can go back twice a month, once every 10 days. Most people now are just doing it weekly. And some people that really rely on their harvest, something fierce, do it twice a week religiously. They're just using more product. It's more expensive. But again, they want to sleep at night. They want to make sure. And I've gone to a lot of these farms. I go, God, I see the atmospherics. I see what's going on. You really don't need to put this much on.
Your product isn't that expensive. Your product isn't that
What?
expensive. I just want to add in there, like you guys even offer a free sample off your site if you guys want to check it out.
And it is. I think our product comes like $1.49 per gallon when it's actually mixed. And our closest competitor, even though they may be half the amount, is $3.50, $3.49 to be exact. And so our product isn't the most expensive out there. There are many others out there that are still more expensive that are just slowly. I mean, the stores I go to, most of the store owners go, your product is the main thing now. We don't really carry very much of anything else, because people will finally come around to our product, whether it's less expensive or more expensive. Like I've said this too before, if something's expensive and it's along the same line of whatever I'm looking at, I'll usually go for the more expensive because I know it's better. But something like this, people are like, I want to try to save money, or it's like, how can the less expensive stuff be good? So it's a two-edged sword. But
I will say that also one of the applications that I wanted to talk about was the kind of alternative uses for Lost Coast. Like when I go in and I reset my flower room, I spray everything on the floor, my concrete floors, all the way up about 3 feet up the wall. I take my atomizer and I completely spray everything down with Lost Coast. I set my trays in, and then I also spray down my trays with Lost Coast. I feel like that's going to give me a break on any kind of pathogens that might be kind of hanging around. And I feel like it might even leave a little scent around in some cracks and corners that might detour folks from getting in. And then also, as I'm progressing through flower, I've lollipopped everything clean up to the bottom of the scrog. So I'll just kind of hit the bottom of the base of the stem and just the top of the pots, just as a way to create any kind of barrier from anything trying to get funky.
I like that.
Jared, please tell me that you don't bathe in it. You do about everything else with it, but please tell me. You could if you want. We have people wash their hands with it when they're out. And when they get sticky, they always wash their hands with it. Like I said, people have gotten rid of psoriatic patches before and athlete's foot because of the overspray, which still blows my mind. But hey, JR, I just remembered that when we were talking about the surfactant, the soap, ours is not a normal soap. It's not like sodium lauryl sulfate or anything else. And it is an organic certified. It breaks the surface tension of the water so much, just like an added surfactant would, that you don't need to add surfactant. But I tell people, or a yucca, a wetting agent, I go, it's cheap and inexpensive, but why do it if you don't need to do that?
Yeah. Before we get into our last group of questions, I just wanted to shout out Dirk. Thank you for the support that you have for the community, both our channel, the Dude Grows channel, and just overall in the community. As online internet nerd, I see Lost Coast shouted out so often online on like online grower Facebook groups on Reddit. All people encountering various issues. Lost Coast Plant Therapy comes up. I thought of that because you were talking about when you go to the grocery store and people are giving you the feedback that they're going to your product. I see that in the online community, and I just wanted to shout out you guys for the support that you guys have, and also it is effective. It's no BS. All of us here used it. I've used it for things like thrips and aphids and pretty much you name it. And I just wanted to shout you out and appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you, brother. Really appreciate that.
Add to it, you guys. Let me see if I got this. You guys replace some nasty pesticides out there in big ag and stuff. And this, I was wondering why this guy came in. I don't know if you guys can see the bumblebee came in and sitting right on the grill. And I'm like, what's it doing there? I'm like, man, it worked all day. My engine's, it's like in its warm little nudge there, chilling with my engine.
Great. Just chilling.
And,
my God.
But beyond cannabis, Lost Coast, you guys do a lot of good work out in bigger ag and stuff. And like everybody else said, thanks for supporting these communities, man. So hopefully
just beginning that, Brett. Thank you for that. Just beginning. We just got it. We're going to be doing probably 70-80% of strawberries grown in the United States organic. So we've just started because it's typically a very conservative, hard group to get into. And we just did it through a mutual friend, and now it's taken off.
Are you going to have enough time to keep track of us? I don't know. If you get too big on the other side, don't forget about us.
You're the only podcast I still do. And I love all of you guys individually. I love every single one of you individually.
So good.
So much. And Rasufa keeps turning me on to other people, but I've just done this. But oh shit, God damn it. Oh yeah, we just sent up a bunch of cases for trials at the second largest LP in Canada. They have 12 acres under glass. And they're going to be doing 120 acres next year outside.
12 acres under glass. I'm trying to grasp that.
It was a really cool thing. I want to get up there. I'm itching to get up there. I've just been
you don't invite me to tour
because I want them
to be angry. I want to tour that.
No, you guys, I want to get up there to make sure that they put it on correctly. I don't want some Yahoo just putting it on. I mean, of course, 12 and a half acres. Are you kidding me? Next time I come up, that's what I'm doing. Brett, you're coming with me.
I'll come up to me and Brett can consult with you. We'll consult that grow.
There you go.
And we'll let you know.
There you go. And we will go to just LPs, micro grows, because going to the stores wouldn't have done you anything. You've been to plenty of stores, but now this next trip is just going to be LPs. And we do so many now up there. I'm so excited that they've come on to our product. And, Canadians are picky, and I understand why. Everything is so expensive up in Canada, you guys. I thought California was expensive. And of course, Canada, even the ugliest point of Canada is stunning. The ugliest spot in Canada, it's still beautiful. It's fucking crazy. But yeah, when I come back up, you guys, both of you will come without question. JR, I'll definitely bring you up, and we'll come do that. That'll be fine. That'll be fun. Can you imagine going to this 12 acres inside? 12 acres.
I love it. I'd like to see their 6 acres of drying and curing.
Oh, man, they have to have at least a full acre plus just to dry all the stuff in easily. An acre worth of building easily. 44,000 square feet easily.
That's insane. So that was one of the topics that was kind of going to round up the show was you're burgeoning into these Canadian and European markets. And I'm sure you're finding people do business there completely different than corporate America. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yes, they are looking out for all you guys. Canada Health, CFIA, they're very difficult to work with, but they are looking out for the general public. I understand that. Just like New Zealand, we sent something 3 weeks ago. It's still on a ship. It'll be there in about a week, and they are so excited. They were as intense to get into as Canada was, you guys. They're very enthusiastic, especially for the Melaleuca honey, all the tea tree plants. Our product works great around honeybees. And you guys, very quickly, I just wanted to say this. Yesterday, I sprayed a spider plant, a grass plant that Debbie cleaned up. My wife, we have it outside. I sprayed it because I saw some whitefly stuff, and of course they're gone. And of course, what do I see the next day? And he's been here now for 2 days. A praying mantis. I took a picture of him, and he just left literally 5 minutes ago. I wanted to go there and show you this huge 3 or 4 inch praying mantis. They're attracted to our product. It's the weirdest fucking thing. Honeybees, ladybugs, and praying mantis love our product. I mean, it's just crazy.
Nice.
I like
it.
that.
It's
I'm
nuts.
a huge bee advocate. I think
Me too,
colony.
bro.
I think colony killing products. And that's my beef with spinosad on the outdoor.
Yes, yes,
Spinosad
that's
on
the
the
only
outdoor is a
problem. Yep,
colony killer, and I
yep,
just kind of have
yep.
issue with that.
Yep, I know. And spinosad's not, Bacillus thuringiensis, BT's different, different inoculum, right? But it doesn't matter. Spinosad is not good for fish or for bees. And when people can spray the hives with our product, I did have to go to the bathroom after that. I was so excited because I'm big about colony collapse and how bad it really is out there with everything, poisons, the temperatures and everything else that are happening all over the world. And we know a lot of beekeepers too.
Yeah, I went to a bee class. I went to a small farming class sponsored by OSU. And one of my
Cool.
subjects that I chose was beekeeping. And they talk about the mite issues that they have with bees. And they said because of the increasing temperatures and heat, that their mite problems are exploding, where before the temperatures, especially here in the Northwest, in the valley, would kind of keep them in a manageable check. I mean, they literally will take the bees in, dunk them, dust them, and they'll count the mites per whatever. And that tells them when to treat, how to treat, and how often to treat. And so I think maybe using something like this in an application that could help them get rid of these mites and still protect the integrity of their hive, that could be a whole nother avenue as well.
Yeah, the Verona mite. There's little teeny microscopic mites that sit on the back of bees, and we've had 3 or 4 high apiarists from Tennessee all the way out to here to California spray their hives directly. They weren't huge, they had maybe a half a dozen boxes, but still enough to where they would be able to sell their honey and give it to family and themselves and their friends. But to spray a pollinator like that and not have it any problems, just that blew my mind. It really did. And a very famous scientist took our product with the others. I know I've said this to all of you before. 6 ounces they started putting on, right? Our product, 6 ounces. Everything else that they used, I think there were 3, 4 others. They all died, turned necrotic and black. Ours was still going strong, and that was a periwinkle plant. I've said this before, you could scream at a periwinkle and it would wilt. They're a very delicate plant. And yeah, Dr. Quick is his name. He's just fine person. He developed Safer Soap about 50 years ago with 2 other scientists. And he's the one that did that. So it is a clean product. It is ultra clean. The efficacy rates are about 95% if it's used properly. And especially nowadays, unfortunately, weekly. That's what we're seeing now. It's just weekly. I didn't do that even when I was growing, guys. I stopped in 2016, 2017 when we started the business. And even then, I really wasn't putting it on weekly. I didn't need to. There was no problem.
I had a thrip pressure this year outdoors in my backyard. And I was every 4 days, man, on it. Bam, 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 bam. And once I started getting into the cooler temperatures, I didn't have any issues. And of course, I stopped using it.
Yeah, thrips and russets, they're really, the pressure they put on the plants is extreme, almost more than anything. But anything could be that way, depending on the severity of the infestation. But thrips especially, root aphids and russets, you want that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Tuesday. You want to get that 10-day thing down. It's a dramatic knockdown rate after that. And then after that, on something like that, I would put it on weekly, even if I didn't see anything. Because thrips really aren't that bad, you guys, until they are. I lived with thrips for years. I would just put up sticky traps, and that was enough. Then one year they got bad, and they were in your nose when you came in. And that was probably a year or 2 before I made my product, and nothing was working. Nothing was until my product came along, and then boom, it worked. Again, I was reluctant to use it on plants with insects, but It worked
Yeah,
almost
talk about that a
immediately.
little bit, because there's a lot of people in our community who are very into their beneficials and their biological, alternatives. Can you kind of talk about its impact on beneficials?
We have regenerative farmers, live soil that love our product. We have people that use beneficials all the time. If you were to use our product, I would just go through the cycle of what you were trying to get rid of, a week to 10 days, and then put on the beneficials. And then maybe 2 weeks later, put on our product, then re-inoculate with the beneficials. But I especially tell people that do that, experiment with your own eyes. You can see what you can do, because that could start getting expensive. So I just tell people, do your own experimentation. There's enough things on YouTube now that that you can get so much from. I know I should go online. I still don't go online. My daughter Chloe, who runs our Instagram page and does all that, she still says, you got to get online and do something. But yeah, I probably am going to do it more. Like I said, this is the only podcast I really do is with you guys.
Well,
thanks, Dirk. We super appreciate it.
Yeah, we really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thank you, man.
Well, we'll just leave it there. I guess, JR, were there any last questions that you wanted to hit before we sign off?
No, I just wanted to again thank you, Dirk, for all of your support, getting us to Emerald Cup and making that a dream come true for me. My life has dramatically changed, and you've been an integral part of me living out this journey. And I can't thank you enough for your support. And just big ups. And people, when you vote with your dollars, and make sure you vote with the people who have the same ethos and the same kind of
hey, that's huge
that you're fucking with. And Dirk and Lost Coast, go ahead, dude, tell them.
Yeah, that's just huge. I met Dirk when I said, hey, we're coming down south on a little bit of a road trip. He's like, why don't you come hang out at my spot and let's talk and let's meet people. So that's huge. And when you said vote with your dollars, for sure, Dirk is more supporting the Lost Coast, this community, Cannabis, Dude Grows, and just good content, getting out there, and good people and good vibes. So just wanted to fist bump you.
Oh, thank you, bro. I really appreciate it. Hey, and by JR, the people who took flowers first, the Humboldt, or rather Mendo Dope.
Yeah.
They got it. They only use our product. And so that was so cool. I saw them up at CannaFest when they came out. That was so much fun. I got to bring you guys down to CannaFest one of these times. But yeah, I think I'm going to go to Emerald Cup next year, JR, even though it's vastly smaller than it was.
Different.
It seems more intimate, and just seems kind of cool that way. Because even Rasufa said it. He goes, it was so small, but it was just for some reason more intimate. So maybe we'll all be able to go down there next year.
Yeah, we had
help anybody that needs help to get down there next year, because it would be fun to do that again.
Yeah,
would you be into? You guys, would you be into doing the Emerald Cup again?
Oh yeah, we want to do a booth there again, especially if they're as generous with us as they were last year. They really hooked it up for us and gave us a huge space to exist in. And we got so much flow through traffic. We're lucky that we brought what we did, because we were at the last day, we were just like, here, want a sticker? We blew through everything.
It was really cool. And the Emerald Cup folks were really cool to us. We interviewed the founder and Tim right after, and he was saying that next year it will be bigger. This year they kind of had to figure out what they were doing in Oakland, and then next year it will be a little bit bigger. Good. So yeah.
Oh, good.
And they had construction, they had all those, all that construction that was happening. And even to the very last minute, it was like permitting and getting the construction to roll out. So they even had room where they did, because a whole giant section of the parking lot was going to be the stage and all the bands and everything. But the construction just wasn't done. It wasn't available. So next year, the timing, I think, is going to be better. And I also think the venue is going to be put together completely. And it is a beautiful venue.
In Lake Merritt. Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah. You can't get any better than that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dirk. Dude, thank you so much for showing up as well from the Dude Grows.
Thanks, dude.
Thanks, Emmy. It's always nice to hang on another show where I'm not trying to wrangle shit. So
Did you say wrangle shit or wrangle Scotty?
Yeah, basically.
Wrangle Scotty. I know. Yeah. Hey, very, very quickly, Brett, make sure Aiden gives me his phone number. You text me his number. I want to call him.
For sure. For sure. We'll get it connected. We might be heading your way again in November if he comes back down to train down there. So we'll road trip down and see you.
Hell yeah.
Well, we're missing some bedding and pillows still, so I'm not sure we're going to have you back.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Q.
Well, guys, have a great rest of your day. And as always,
You're the best. You're the
Growers
best.
love y'all.
Growers love. Thanks, man.
Love you all.